Well, hi to all those who are watching. This man is actually quite tired, but I felt inspired to do this and feel that it is a continuation of the first two videos of those live broadcasts that were done over the past 3 weeks or so. What I'm going to be doing is deconstructing the comments that were posted by good-hearted men, and to try and help others go deeper into sensing the bigger picture by eliminating the confusion of the English language and the add meaning assumptions we place to English words that differ from man to man, that has created so much conflict and confusion. One of the things I wanted to first share, which I don't know if I've ever mentioned this in videos or not, but I want to sort of share it, is that, and it's not been executed intentionally by planning. It's just that it was a byproduct of this, that the insights that this man has been coming up with since March 2005 were directly attributed to being able to access the trauma that this man carries in the body, that comes from the sexual abuse as a child, and the many forms of harm that were done upon this man, yet alone all the emotional stuff that most of us have endured. It's like, look at it like having one foot in the dark, one foot in the light. It's all happening here between the ears. It can make us psychotic. It's not happening anywhere else. All it is that we're sensing information coming up from trauma, reading what's before us from anyone, anywhere, which is what's going to happen today with these 3 comments, and then using scrutiny and making sense, the light, with what is before us. And in doing this, this man has been able to access the circuit boards of the system, which is so vast because of the alphabet language and every other man and woman out there that's pushing it out there, that the speed of thought, the ability to gather insight so quickly through the labor, the practice that's happened over many, many years, particularly through intense arguments, debates, which this man has been known for. It pisses a lot of people off. This darkness is only the effects of others' intentions upon us. The harm that had been done to my parents that then echoed or called out the harm to this child of theirs that was harmed. I won't go through all the, we don't need to go through all the details of all the harm. Let's just say that many of us have suffered, and we suffer, and this man still suffers, and this man is exhausted doing this, because this is not something that brings elation and joy from the consciousness of our true essence of our soul. It comes from the fucking horror of the evil of our ways. But having the courage to go in and face the monster of man's invention, this egregore, which we're going to discuss in this video, and remain detached sufficiently to explain it through the insights this man has gathered over the years, and to try and bring a bigger picture of wholeness, which is a form of conclusion, or for those who are looking to get out of the system in this life but don't know how, and think that in most cases, most people think it's a journey, that our freedom is a journey, when it ain't. There is no journey to freedom. There is no journey to consciousness. It's just a letting go of all the bullshit that's held back the true essence of who we are, that's already present here amongst the living, and allowing that to be there and holding that dream and giving our life energy to that, versus the holding the trauma through the alphabets and all the ritual sacrifice that was behind the alphabets. that formed the bloodletting and blood libel of the English language, is where all the emotion, this is where all the actions of man performing the fake life in the system is derived from. It really does come from ritual sacrifice and all the trauma. So being able to access this trauma, I guess you could thank Fiona for a lot of this, even though she will not be involved today, because she was the one who allowed me to pull out of the system completely, drop all contracts by the time of 2006 or June 2006. Some of them had to just fall away by themselves because I just stopped using them. But it left me free to contemplate and use scrutiny here, sitting in front of computers here in this room, in this 3-bedroom rental property in East Barrel, and begin this scrutiny and exercising. Then not even realizing what I was doing as part of the bigger picture. I just felt from my heart, I need to do this. It's something so strong. It was so strong that instead of going back in the system and making another $1 million or $2 million and building up equity that had already been stolen from the previous 20 years of building it all up, felt this was more important. So I don't offer you wealth, material wealth, as a result of these riches this man has developed, but I do offer you profound insights that I don't own. They're not mine to keep. They're for yours. They're all for you, for all of us, because it provides a direction how we stop doing harm. In the first 2 videos of these live broadcasts, which is mentioned in the About section of this Facebook wall, which I will also put up, because this video will be transformed to a YouTube broadcast uploaded to the YouTube channel, and I will include lots of text where required, including the text of these comments. I'll put it all up in that. So just bear with me. Though I'm tired, I'm strong enough to not let that tiredness numb me from communicating and making sense of these things that go on, that come to me from time to time. And I just feel that this one is very important. And I also stress that I think I'm coming to the end of doing this work, that the ebook will become very, very simple. All these years of wanting to do it has evolved to something that's become so simple and so small, though we're still looking for an illustrator. If one of you out there watching this, listening to this, is got some illustration skills, simple black and white sketch drawing, can do plenty and quickly, do contact us, because that's what's the missing ingredient now, is really an illustrator. It could also be that when we put out this ebook with a few illustrations, that we put it out to everyone else who's inspired in reading it, who might want to add a brief story that's relevant to add to the ebook, as well as providing their inspirations of illustrations that can be added to the ebook too. So maybe, you know, an ebook that evolves through various releases until it's finished. So it's not just us, it's a voice of many putting this out as a tool to give to anyone who wants to wake up, really wake up from this nonsense. I don't recommend anyone trying to do what I do when it goes going to darkness. This is not something important for one's spiritual development, because it ain't. You actually suffer. You actually get smashed, because what happens inside the head are all the demonic voices of all those thought forms that this man draws in through the trauma of this man's resonation. So when I observe someone, I can bring in all their shit into me. And it's like walking through the mire of their shit. We're still intact, and rat out, deconstruct, and explain what's going on, what's really going on through all these years of refining the skill. I don't recommend others to do it, though. If you really want to do it, well, you can do it. But it's look at it. Another way to look at this kind of work, it's like, it's an analogy that I use, I've been using a lot lately at home privately with friends who come and stay here, or with those we know closely over the phone and we talk. But look at this work like a house that needs maintenance. You know, we got to go and dust it and remove things. And if you've got kids, you've got to clean up, put things away, your own stuff, put your shoes back, you know, all that stuff if you want to have some kind of order. Now, with the system, made out of all of these definitions that are just fantasy, that we give life to. These thought forms are demonic because they are not a life form as in a cow or a living thing. They are just entities stemming from our body that we keep giving it life to uphold the sound of those thought forms, as in A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, that forms letters and words that we communicate to each other with. And we got to keep directing life energy in remembering the definitions, the explanations of the meaning of the words that form the sentence structures. And we are truly sentenced in the prison of those paragraphs and chapters that we talk and talk and talk as English. But these thought forms are the dust, as the mess. And when people come in contact with this man's work, and they're dreaming for truth, because that's the key thing, that if a man is sincere and is dreaming for truth and dreaming for freedom, and they come to this man's work and they get inspired, which happens a lot, all the demonic stuff is released as the mess in the room this man must clean, because there's no universe out there to clean the mess. There's no one else out there, it's only us. And so all that comes into this man's body and got to clean it. So all this processing goes on. And it's one of the reasons why this man's exhausted and tired, because it would be great if there are more of us conscious enough to do this, willingly wanting to do this, and allowing their bodies to house the demonic energy and process it, basically neutralize it, because it's the only way it can be done. Nature can't do this in that way, because we are nature. And it's only through man's intention, man's willpower, to hold a dream of such an outcome that it happens. And so, because this man dreams for loving my brothers and sisters, I'll take on your shit. I don't even need to know who you are and where you are. It just comes. If someone's reading it from the other side of Earth or watching a video and things are triggering and going off, all the letting go is coming to this man to process. So much is happening in us, of us, no different to people coming into your home and make a mess, then they leave and you've got to clean up the mess, because no one else is going to clean it up unless you clean it up with your intent. There's no luck to this. There's no spiritual divinity. There's no exclusivity or privilege with this. It's just simply, if you want to be unconditional and do it, you just do it. So it's going into the darkness as playing through hell and removing it and replacing it, restoring with the wholeness, without creating effects of harm in terms of invalidation of uniqueness and originality, because everybody's unique and original. So I do work very hard to tell you that what I share is not the truth. What I do is reveal to you what isn't the truth. Because if I show you what's not right, you in your unique way, using your senses, which is not the alphabet thoughts in your head, using your senses, you can work it out in your unique original way, which nurtures the true expression and expansion and creation of your soul. Because that's what the soul is, your dream, that's undefined, not defined by another man. So I cannot define your consciousness. I cannot define your truth or your freedom or anything. For to do so makes me no different to everyone else under the effect of the inculcation in the system. I'd be no different to what's already been done to all of us. We'd be just contributing another version of the scam, another shade, gray color of this lie. So I'm not here, and never have had any intention, to provide you with truth and lead you on the path, because then if that was the case, I'd be a Pied Piper. So I'm not a cult leader. People have claimed that I'm of a cult, and I says, well, I've looked under the bed, I've looked in the cupboards, I've gone into the kitchen pantry, I've gone out on the street, looked under the cars, inside the cars, I've walked down the streets, I've looked everywhere around the garden. Where is this cult? But even more importantly, where are the bank accounts of this cult, where all this money's coming? Where are all these bodies for having orgies regularly with all the women? You know, if this was a cult. So the truth is, those who make those claims of cult are already of a cult, in a cult, making claims of cults, because the system is a cult, cult. And all the definitions that form sameness models that forms religion, think tanks, ideologies, is the cult, because they're not your dreams. They're just borrowed dreams that, like today, a classic example, you can journey across Earth to every city and everyone looks the same because they're wearing similar denim jeans and similar T-shirts and tops. And as you're starting to notice the same sort of concrete and plastic skyscrapers. And so this sameness of the Western world is appearing everywhere. And it's hard, unless you can look more carefully into the photos of these cities, that you might notice, oh, it's somewhere in Japan, or it's somewhere in Iceland, or it's somewhere in Sydney, or Los Angeles and New York. Everything's the sameness. This happens in our brains with the belief systems that have shaped the dreamings that we hold, that have defined the perception of reality, that we walk around as the man, thinking this is who we are. Arthur, I'm Greek. I grew up Greek Orthodox, and Arthur's a Leo. He's got a Pisces rising, whatever it is, and and Arthur is 5 foot, nearly 5'8" and a bit, whatever, and Arthur is fat, and Arthur's Arthur does this and that, and Arthur's got this kind of character temperament, right? All this, you got to get this. All this is bullshit. It's nonsense. These are just definitions, and I'm going to be going into all this because these 3 comments that were posted to the name is the mark of the beast, the straw man identifying your slave status in the system video that was uploaded February 2012, I think will give me the ability to deconstruct a lot of this stuff. So for those of you who are really interested, you will here's this Dean Rose preaching to the converted here. Well, what are you doing here? I'm not asking you to sit here and listen to me if you're already being preached to. I'm not here to preach. I'm only sharing insights. So you're welcome to unplug from this chat and go and continue your journey wherever it may be. But when you make comments like that, I take that as you are reacting to something about this man. You're entering into some kind of entanglement you have with this man, which is the egregore working through you. Now, please forgive me if I'm wrong, and that your intention, Dean Rose, I don't even know who Dean Rose is and where you're coming from. I've never come across you before. Maybe you don't know about us and our work and what our true motives are, our intentions. But if you don't know them, I suggest you take some time out and contemplate and use immense scrutiny, because I don't think you really yet comprehend the big picture, what we're sharing. You're just hearing English words and they're going inside your head. You're illuminating the words in your head and you're adding meaning. How that works is like if I say to you, that's a daffodil and that's yellow, I'm putting a picture in your head, an image about the life form while you are sensing it. You can be my child and we're looking at the life form in nature. But if I place that definition into your head, that definition will not only carry the motive and the intentions and the life of this man in that picture, but also the ones you place in it. And also everyone else who's placed their interpretation and their consciousness, their feelings and stuff in it as well. So you end up in this cult of the daffodil is yellow at the effect of the placebo of that. So when you think or hear daffodil is yellow, triggers straight away the illumination and echo inside your head of that. But on your radar, that isn't the daffodil's yellow coming from the life form. It's coming from the parroting, the performance of the act of the English words that you have represented, right? Because it is only going on in your head. The life form is not in your head. The life form is there before us, but it's not in our head. That blimp on the radar is the one you're imagining is the daffodil is yellow, and are imagining those you place with the daffodil is yellow, as in Christianity, consciousness, freedom, truth, Illuminati, Galactic Federation, reptilian shapeshifters. There are millions and ones of these occultic practices where the craft to define a perception of reality has been used to deceive you, deceive all of us. So the radar, the blimp, should be reality and not the imagining of what we think, what we believe it is. So if you're writing something and saying, preaching to the converted, well, where are you coming from? What's the motive for you to even say that? You'd be surprised just how deep this shit goes for all of us when we do that, when we start to represent someone else. The whole of the English language is this deception. And the amount of years of practicing, recalling, calling out the definitions is the depth of our fall into the matrix of this man-made hell, which are the blimps in our head, all the white noise, the ghetto blaster in our heads, spinning the conversation of English under the name that we carry as this vessel we think is who we are, the birth certificate. And this straw man, this person, or human, a type of a man, but it's not a man, is being called forth, delivered as the man who's never created a unique original dream, is just living the dreams everyone else has defined their dreams of the man's life. And who you are ain't there because there's no soul there. This is how it really works. And we'll go into this through these comments that were posted. So 12th of May, 2018, Lando Hoth posted 2 comments. In the name is the mark of the beast, the straw man identifying your slave status in the system. The link is already in the, I think in this video. You can see the link to the video. It's in the Arthur Love for Life YouTube channel, put up in February 2012. He says, only way out is through Jesus. Jesus teaches Nicodemus. Now there was a Pharisee, a man named Nicodemus, who was a member of the Jewish ruling council. He came to Jesus at night and said, Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher who has come from God, for no one could perform the signs you are doing if God were not with him. Jesus replied, very truly I tell you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless they are born again. How can someone be born when they are old, said Nicodemus. Surely they cannot enter a second time into their mother's womb to be born. And Jesus answered, very truly, I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God unless they are born of water and the Spirit. Key words written by the occultists. We'll open this up. Flesh gives birth to flesh, but the Spirit gives birth to spirit. You should not be surprised at my saying, you must be born again. The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born with the Spirit. And then, what's his name? The guy who posted the comment goes on to say, what's his name again? Lando Hoth goes on to say, you said in the video, we got to live in a world with no lives. But the only way to live in a world of no lies is through the source that has 100% truth. And that is Jesus, who leads us to the Father. You remind me of a branch who tries to produce the fruit without being connected to the root, which is something I'm guilty of also. In a second comment, he says, I saw a documentary of tribes, people who barely had any contact with the outside world, and they had a death cult. They weren't pure just because they were separated by the system. They struggled from the very same thing that people deal with today in the more technological beast world, which is sin, which affects us all after the fall into the garden, after the fall from the Garden of Eden. He says in the Garden of Eden, but anyway, they didn't even need to be part of the beast system in order to operate in disgusting practices. All right, so I'm going to deconstruct this. Firstly, the Bible is made up out of alphabets. And you only find it in the world of alphabets. You do not find it outside of alphabets. Now, all the systems, all the man-made civilizations are crafted out of alphabets. There are many types of alphabets because they're just definitions that come with sounds or pictures from the intentions of the man who's dreamt them, or the many men who become caught up in dreaming these dreams that define the perception of reality that we call a civilization. And with it, the alphabet languages and the tongues and the craft and the culture and all those things that define that perception of reality. So firstly, the Bible has come out of alphabets. So that's telling you straight away it's come from the occultists, not from God. because the definition of God is not God. The thought of God is not God. It's just an idea of a God in your head that comes with the definitions explained about God. That's no different to the yellow daffodil and all the explanation and scientific background that comes from the man who put that yellow daffodil story in your head, because you have not created this dream. You never went to the life form directly through direct first party, direct sensory experience through your senses, and the life form tell you, yes, I'm yellow, yes, I'm a daffodil, and yes, this is a scientific explanation about my purpose. All that's been recalled here are the storytelling of others that put it in your head and what you've garnished to it along the way, and with everyone else who's added to it. So it's the same as God. The definition of God is just in your head, but God is not in your head. It's just an idea, a thought. This is at the roots of all the occult, guys, this practice of inculcation. So be aware that the Bible, I call it bullshit, because those who wrote it brings everyone so close to the truth. But it's still not close enough that it is the living truth of your living soul, because you never dreamt them. They draw you in through the temptation of the definitions. Usually those who craft these things, which is what's happening today with bringing in the New World Order, and I'll explain this too, because the New World Order will be brought in by all the good guys who are countering all the bad guys or their work. But all the bad guys and all the good guys all come from the same societies, lodges, fraternities, etc. And it's creating the chaos and bringing everyone to their knees and getting the good guys to come through like the Knights Templars as heroes and champions to rescue you from this nightmare that the scam of the New World Order will be brought about by the good guys, because they'll come as remedies. But you'll still remain trapped in the alphabet world of the system, because everyone will still have to be educated under alphabets, and all the constructs and concepts of the alphabets must continue to resonate in their heads, because otherwise it will be gobbledygook going right over their heads. It'll be like Martian talk. Again, refer to the Love for Life videos and articles that go into those themes. I will not repeat that here. So when you're talking about God, you're calling out every occultist who was trained in alphabets, and with it, the compass and square that formed the measurements, because the compass and square with the G inside the middle of the compass and square is God, the grand architect. But it's not God, the living creator that we talk about in other videos. It's not the living man, because the creator came as man, and man fell as man using the gift of God that God had provided all of man. But there's never been a separation between God and man, ever. It's only happening in here. All the damage is done here. And whatever Freakenstein experimenting has been done on the bodies along the way through alchemy that the occultists use, which has evolved into what we're experiencing today with chemtrails and HARP and fluoride and vaccinations and aspartame and MSG and then, you know, carrying out all the pixelations on screens, and with 9/11 and trauma and all this calling out, which we've covered in other videos as well. So the first thing about the word God, it's not God talking to you. It's not Jesus talking to you when you're calling out the scripts of the Bible. It is just the pictures in your head that you've accepted as being the truth. But you weren't there. You weren't there back then. No one else was there back then. Bring forward Jesus right now before us. Let's not hear from a man who makes this claim. Let's hear it directly from the tongue of Jesus, the man. Let's hear from the living, not from the fiction. It's like I've used in the analogies of Alice in Wonderland with little Mary being a man. Little Mary is before us, the living, as all of us who are listening to this video. Little Mary is present with the presence of light. We can pre-sense little Mary. We can sense little Mary, the living, before us. Touch, taste, feel, smell, hear, see. We don't even need to know the name Little Mary, because we can smell her, we can hear her, we can see her, etc. But all the time she's performing Alice in Wonderland because she's practiced the occults of recalling the story that was put in her head by others who read the story to with the pictures. And she can run around dressed as Alice and believe that she's Alice. But no matter what she says to the living around her by saying, hey, Alice is real, Alice exists, and Wonderland is real, Wonderland exists as in the system, with all the names, everyone's birth certificate, everyone says all this is real. It ain't real, because it's just a blimp on the radar that's a definition put in your head by your parents, by those close to us who thought we're doing the right thing, and by all the education that's housed inside the name that build up the library of one's life, the book of life. That's all fake. None of it is real. So Alice is not present with the presence of life. We can't sense Alice. We can't sense Wonderland because it ain't present with the presence of life. We can't sense Wonderland or Alice. We can only sense little Mary, the man. But all the time we have Alice and Wonderland in our heads. We are imagining Alice and Wonderland. And because we are the living, calling out the definitions, we can become enamored with others who are also calling out the definition to form the cult of a religion and be stuck believing through our life energy that we've gifted with our good hearts, because everyone dreams for truth. Everyone dreams for freedom. Everyone dreams for kindness and justice. Everyone dreams for all the sentiments of the good heart, because everyone has a good heart. There is no one who doesn't have a good heart. But when you have been confused by the definitions, you can be calling out for dreams that you've never created, that you're only imagining. And your life force energy goes into these dreams like a placebo effect, with everyone else is giving life energy to these dreams, and you can call it Jesus. Or in this case, Alice in Wonderland, with little Mary's the star performer on stage in front of 100,000 of us in an amphitheater. And there we're watching little Mary and her cast on stage, staged Alice in Wonderland. And after the show's over, everyone sits and claps and goes, bravo, the best performance ever, yippee! But that's not proof of the fact that Alice in Wonderland exists. And all the Bibles in the world has no proof that God exists, or the fiction of the God exists, or the Jesus or anyone else, because you weren't there. All you got are actors representing it. And just like we place all the sentiments of our characters with all our good hearts to the daffodil is yellow, so when we trigger the word daffodil yellow in our head, this is what the occults of hypnotic suggestion is all about. We bring with it all the sentiments of a good heart that we've placed on the word yellow daffodil, in this case, Jesus, or Bible, or Holy Bible. And with everyone else who've done this, and all their life energy going into the dream of the bubble of Jesus and the Holy Bible and the stories that have come out of the New Testament and the Old Testament and all the other scrolls of papyri tablets, because anything scribbled, marked, and written down is of occults. It's of the occults. It ain't real because there's no soul there, nothing living. They're just imprints, you know. If a child brought up by nature came across this, it would look like something from another world this child would never even begin to comprehend. It'll be Martian stuff, absolute gobbledygook. And it'll just be going right over the child's head, because nowhere in nature will teach the child ABC 1, 2, 3 or hieroglyphics or any forms of alphabets from Hebrew, the brewing of the Heli, you know, of Levi. And this goes into Zionism and all the other crap that these people have done, which I'm not going to get into in this video. So the first thing, the only one present with God in our heads is each man who's calling it out. That's the first thing. And it doesn't matter if there's a million of us and we call ourselves Roman Catholic or Protestant or Greek Orthodox. It doesn't matter what cult we want to come up with. And there's millions, including rock and roll and the fashion industry. Entertainment industry is full of cults. Sport. The whole system is a cult within a cult, within a cult, within a cult. Recalling the pictures that forms the fashion statement of Manchester United or the Boston Red Sox or the Commonwealth Games or the Olympic Games with nations and countries. All this is the same shit, all coming out of the occults. The first thing you've been got at with lies. And if you're not given full disclosure of the big picture and how all this works, you'll be misled. So the greatest weapon that occultists have is to bring you so close to the truth that you will trust those who are communicating the definitions to you. And if they're not giving you full disclosure of the effects the definitions will have by forming the fake blimps that you will begin to imagine by recalling them in your head, then you will fall asleep in a state of unconsciousness because your head is spinning with the recalling of the definitions. And as there are so many definitions that started from so young because you're listening to mum and dad who got at, and they're talking English at home, and you're listening to everyone else around you, including your siblings, and from there, the neighbors and wherever else you go, and you're going out with your parents in the pram in the shopping centers, and you're seeing all this activity that's all coming out of the alphabets in supermarkets and shopping centers and driving cars with billboards and street names and numbers and libraries and you name it. This is constantly coming at you. So you can easily be sucked into a dream world of fantasy, because it is fantasy, only going on inside you, because every blimp of every definition is only in your head. It's nowhere else to be experienced. You can't go and visit Alice in Wonderland anywhere and have a direct sensory experience with Alice. Let's smell Alice. Let's smell Wonderland. Let's see and hear everything directly from the source. But people say, oh, but you know, the God that came through the Bible is written by men of God. Well, true, we are all of God. All of us are. But the malevolent intent to deceive you and the cunning and the guile of this thing is another thing again. And that's what the system is all about, because when you're trapped in the system, you're only trapped inside the matrix that formed the circuit board of definitions that made the blimp of your fake name. And you are only navigating inside your head as you're hopping in the car, which is fiction, and you're driving down the road of the highway with its names, heading to the destinations. All this is only happening inside your head. Even if you hop in an aeroplane and you think you're flying, you're not flying. You're not going anywhere in that way. It's only you're imagining that you're heading somewhere, but you are not flying. This machine that we call an airplane may be flying, but you're not flying. And the illusion that you truly are flying is really that. That's no different to watching someone acting Alice in Wonderland on stage. You can be lost inside Alice in Wonderland, get caught up in the story, like watching a film it in a movie cinema, and come to tears and cry, or come to rage and excitement and joy. But it's only happening in here, nowhere else. Nothing is going on in your direct experience with reality, because it ain't coming from reality at all. It's come from all that that's been put in your head for so long. So if you try and prove that I'm lying, try and prove that this is not the case, because it's very easy when someone wants to call out the truth and say God exists through the Bible. Well, then bring forward God, bring forward Jesus, bring forward Solomon, bring forward Moses, bring forward any character. Let's hear it directly from the source, not from an actor representing, right? Because see, Alice is not present with the presence of life. Alice not present. The only one present is Mary, little Mary. She's the only one present with the presence of life. So Alice needs little Mary's life force energy to perform Alice. And because little Mary's calling out Alice, still not proof of the fact that Alice exists, because Alice is not present amongst the living. And this is how the law works. This is how statutes operate in courts. And this is how you destroy them. If you know what you're doing, if you really comprehend the big picture, and can deconstruct it like that in front of them, these liars. Now remember this, the Bible is the system. It comes from the system. It does not come from nature, from undefined man, from undefined reality, because nature is undefined. Undefined means that everything is unique and original, not one the same as the next, instant by instant. Every instance is unique and original, never to be repeated. Every leaf will never be the same as the next leaf. Every grain of sand will never be the same as any other grain of sand, or drop of water, or particle of air, or whatever. The uniqueness, originality is undefined. And the truth is undefined. And freedom is undefined. And consciousness is undefined. And life is undefined. And that's who we really are. But we've been got at by definitions to define us. And they gave us the definition of God, and gave us the definition of Jesus, and they gave us the definition of whatever are those blimps in your head. And there you are on stage performing Christianity. And everyone who's giving the life energy to it will create the placebo effect that Jesus has healed them. When all that time it was them creating it, the life energy inside the bubble of Christianity, because they gave their life over to Jesus with everyone else, that they get healed. And they say, oh, it's Jesus who did it. But the only one present all the time was man. Man. All experiences to man. Bring forward an experience without man being a party to that experience, to that thought, to that dream, to that idea, to that feeling, to that emotion. Bring forward any experience without man being a party to that experience. It can't be done. It's impossible, because we're the only ones here, and have always been here. No one else is here. It's only us. And we're creating everything. And we're all at the effect of each other, which is what I'm going to show you how this works. When children are brought up by nature, with no one inside the head forming these imaginary blimps that they must recall, refer to, these children have direct sensory experience with reality, with nature, with the living. And through their senses, the sensorama of this forms their dreams, because thoughts are dreams, dreams are thoughts. And the sensations of smell, of sight, of touch, etc., inspires the sensations, because everything of our body is sensory. Everything of our body is sensory. Touch, taste, feel, smell, see. The senses inspires through our will to create dreams that are unique to us, undefined, never to be repeated inside another man's head. Now, this is what we've got to get back to, because it's here where we do our true communication, because we're already communicating. We don't need alphabets to communicate. We can already sense. This is why when a dog comes to you and can smell your butt, the information of one sniff that a dog has picked up from you, you couldn't even house in all the libraries put together with all its books. Because the dog picks up the big picture, and all of reality picks up the big picture. But we have been so pixelated through definitions in our head that we've fallen down inside a dream world of definitions. Now we're inside the circuit board of the matrix. And it's all compartmentalized and regimented, and and you've been told how to think, how to feel, and it's categorized this and that. So everything's so boxed, and it's staggering just how huge this definition dream world is. That's all fake, and only are these blips in your head. You cannot experience this anywhere else. So children brought up by nature, with no one inside their heads defining reality to them, are creating a unique, original, living soul of a man, the living man. And it's undefined. But when people get inside our heads to define anything of reality to us, we are falling into the lie of the definition that we are amplifying through illumination, because that's what the practice of the occults is. They worship Lucifer. Lucifer is the light. The light is the life force energy of man illuminating the definition. Like little Mary illuminating Alice in Wonderland on stage, and there she is. She enters and she dresses as Alice, and she set up all the props with all the others to perform as part of the cast of the staged act. Now we do that under the name of the birth certificate, under the name of the family, the surname, and we do it under the name of many things, because that name is on the driver's license, the car registration, it's in your bank accounts, mortgages, leases, you name it. The whole system is this crap. And we're just illuminating the definition that is the blimp in our head and claiming this is the truth. Jesus is talking to me. When all it is just All the brothers and sisters who held Jesus as the dream are in your head under the definition of Jesus by all the occultists who formed it for you, and then put a prison around Jesus and called it the Bible and called it Christianity and locked you inside the prison. Because if you peel back Christianity, take it right back, what do you find? But the system of this enslavement. Peel back Mohammedanism, the Quran, you find the system, even though it's a fact. It was the Jesuits of the Roman Catholic Church who created Mohammedanism. The very enemy of Christendom was created by the very Christians themselves. This goes with Buddhism, New Age, and everything else in your head that's been defined to you, dreams that you have not created, that you're walking around on stage, staging the act of the definition. Oh, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer. This is my name, this is my race and my culture and my creed, this is my title, this is my standing, these are my hobbies and interests, this is my family, these are, da-da-da, it just goes on and on. And all of it is fake, even though the living is all amongst us, but they're all gone. And if the reality is not on our radar, it's like I say in many of our videos and articles, you can brainwash, inculcate a man so much that by the time the man's come out with degrees from university, the good heart's still there. The good man can see the mountain, the pristine mountain before the man. But the man can't sense the purpose of the big picture of everything. The man is now just dreaming for concrete, plastic, steel, and skyscrapers and cities and highways and byways, what they're going to do by gouging out this mountain, ripping it all apart. Because it's only happening inside the man's head. It's not actually in reality, where the man was risen up by nature itself. Because when a child is brought up by nature, no one defining reality to them, they are the tree. There's no separation. They are the wind. They are the bird. Because when we experience what we're sensing, we are there. We're there. There's the bird. There's the life. There's the breeze. There's the sunlight. It's not in here as an image, a storytelling, which is what the occultists do. So another thing to look at before I go into deconstructing this, using a lineal analogy I've used a lot. Imagine the creator holding the dream of life, because every dream has a creator. There's always a life force behind a dream that sets that dream into motion, that comes with willpower. So imagine the creator of the dream of life is a man, God, holding the dream of life. Now inside the dream of the bubble of this dream of life are all the images, all the pictures of the cow that thought out. Everything that we are experiencing of reality that we call earth, nature, celestial bodies is inside the bubble of this lineal analogy. Really, there is no outside or inside to this bubble. There's no beginning or end to this bubble because it's non-lineal. It's not finite. But I'll just give you a way to try and comprehend this, try and sense this. The creator's holding the dream of life. Now, there's no life there yet. There's nothing there. It's just the creator present. Nothing else is present to the bubble. Now, that bubble is a blimp in the creator's head still. Just an idea. A good one. And for the creator to create life, the creator has now moved its life energy, its essence, its character, everything into the bubble to set into motion the whole dream of life with its life by breathing in its life. And the power of creation was such that God, the creator, came into the dream of life as man. And it's always been man as God ever since, though there's never been a beginning. It's always been like this. It's non-lineal, undefined. And the essence of the character of the creator is in the cow, in the molecules, in the microbes, in the humus, in the insects, and all the creatures, and the birds. The essence of the character is in everything that the man has dreamt and is holding and calling out. because it's only man calling out to the dream of life that we experience the dream of life. Without a man present to the dream of life, there is no dream of life to experience, because we're the only ones here. You see, all thoughts of the past and the future, meaning all experiences of the past and the future, be they dreams, feelings, emotions, ideas, thoughts, whatever, requires us to exist here and now to think and feel them, to experience them. And if we do not exist here and now as man, there's no one to experience the dream of life. There'd be nothing here. Now, some people say, but hang on, but the birds will still be here, the trees will still be here. And I'm saying, yeah, but you're a man who heard this. Imagine there's no man to hear what this man is sharing with you to reply. Meaning, the question has been probed to you, there'll be no one there to reply. Now imagine there's no man there. What is there? And this tells you the truth of who we are and what we are. We truly are God, which just means full responsibility for everything we think, feel, and do, for what we dream. We're at the effect of the dreams that we hold, but we're not conscious in the system, being raised by the system of definitions. We're not conscious of what we're holding. We're not able to sense the bigger picture of every definition, merged with every definition, merged with every definition that's formed the language and the communication of English, or Latin, or Hebrew, or the iconography of images, that you find in all the architecture that the occultists use in forming the cities, ancient or not. And in the coding of the English language, you have a William doublespeak and triplespeak, which we know a lot about. We've experienced this in courts and used it against them. And in the debates, the 3,500 debates that we brought this up. But again, it's only man present. No one else is here. We can imagine, oh, but there's still a God in heaven. Well, bring forward this God in heaven. Don't claim that this God exists. Bring forward this God before the living. Can you do that? Because if not, you're committing fraud and you're lying and you're deceiving people by making the claim that God exists. When God already exists here, we are it. But we are co-creating now. So if you can comprehend the dream of life as a bubble, there is God standing in paradise as man. But there's never been a separation. Everything that the Creator is now man. God didn't fall apart and split itself to be man. That's a fantasy. That's duality crap. There it is. And everything that God is doing as man is experiencing the dream of life. So everything the creators are creating and holding is the weather. Is everything through our senses that we call life. Everything that has life, set into motion by life itself. That's why the truth, the soul of the truth, the essence of the Creator is in the breeze. It's in the wind. It's in the leaves as it's swaying in the breeze. It's in the nuts and the seeds, it's in the creatures. It's in everything of all the leaves and branches that falls to form the humus. And down there, the topsoil. And the whole relationship, this extraordinary undefined universe, if you want to call it, that forms mountains and rivers and the air. It is God. And we're the only one to the experience. And it will never be any other way. There is no reptilian shapeshifters. There are no aliens or UFOs. It's only man. And the deception that man has played out by building UFO craft, constructing genetically formed aliens, coming up with everything. It's always man to the experience. It's always man to the claim. There is no one else there. Everything in your head has come from man. It's not come from a God apart from you. It's not come from something else as an alien. Just because you see a grey appearing through the curtains behind the White House as George Bush Jr. is talking to people because of 9/11 means that there's greys. Or because you get thousands of people out there who are liars saying that there's developments on Mars and Venus. I mean, Mars is a definition in your head. The solar system is a definition in your head. The galaxy is a definition in your head. Every construct and concept that forms science is all definitions in your head. The daffodil is yellow, is no different to Earth as a planet. Bring forward Earth. Let's hear it directly from Earth. Earth, are you a planet? Where do you end Earth, and where does the rest of reality begin or continue? Let's hear it from you directly. Let's not hear from another man. Because that's where the truth is. So I say, every single definition in your head is a lie, because they are not your dreams, because you are imagining the Earth is a planet, just like you imagine Jesus exists, just like you're imagining that the Bible is the word of God, when the word is just definitions formed out of alphabets that are all fucking lies. All of it lies. Remember this. Our ancestors were all in paradise. They had it all, yet they fell. And all their descendants ever since have never returned to paradise. And every single generation, including the original fallen, have all had good hearts, just like you've got good hearts. And everyone's got good hearts. But look at this mess we're in, with everyone's good heart, wrecking everything for everybody. Everyone believing they're doing the right thing, believing the right pictures in our head, believing in that. And we go to war because we think that Christianity has a much higher standing than something that's Judaic or something that could be Jew orientated. And we criticize. People accuse me of being Jew. Can you believe it? Just because one of our original videos about a friend's place, they had one of those candle things with, I can't remember what you call it, in the background. And they said, oh, I must be a Jew. Fucking. How we make these things up, how we imagine and fantasize things and make it out, oh, it must be true. When all you're hearing is when you're calling out the definitions inside your head, I'm being impersonated. The man Arthur is not there on their radar. They are impersonating the man Arthur in the stage of these symbols that they saw in the video, with everything else they've placed to it. And they're creating slander. And they're making up all this fucking fantasy. Making out as if I'm a Jew. Just because they saw something on their head. And it's all in their head. And he can't prove it anywhere else. And never will. Because this man's a man. This man's not part of race, culture, creed, title, standing. That's why this man pulled completely out of the system in 2006. And uses the system through Fiona, who has all the contracts, to communicate and do this work. So the Bible is no different to science in that way. Just because it's in your head and you're imagining it with everyone else's imagination is still not proof of fact that it's true. In spite of everyone who has a good heart all around us. If we can't rout out the lie, the deception of the lie, then we will never be able to remove our real lives from confusion and the distractions of all that white noise, ghetto blasting going on inside our head, because we've practiced calling out definitions constantly. Children, repeat after me. A, B, C. Come on, children, let's repeat. We're in the classroom now. Let's put it up on the board. A, B, C, and again, and again. Okay, now we're going to learn to spell. Now, no child can go anywhere in nature to experience A because A doesn't exist. Or B, or C, or hieroglyphics, or any ancient alphabet tongues, or any of the symbolism, the pictures, the pictography, the phonetics and the etymology that comes with it, that forms a William double speak, triple speak, that you have to be initiated into. Which is what David Icke has done with his work that we've exposed. It's only in our head. Because it's in our head doesn't mean it's proof of fact. So because someone explains what consciousness is to you, or explains to you what you're looking out there, like when you stand looking at the stars at night, and all the definitions are spinning it because everything's been explained to you, it's still not proof that what you're defining in your head is what you're looking at. Because we're not getting it directly from the source. We're getting it from other men and women putting the shit in their heads. This is what the Bible's all about. Getting you lost in dream times. Because they're all thoughts of dreams. Pictures, stories are dreams. Storytelling are still dreams. But they're not our dreams. And we get sucked into all those who give us the impression they're good hearts and love us and care for us, that we fall inside their dream worlds. with our good hearts, only to be lost and enslaved of our own doing. And the cunning and the trickery of the occultists who do this intentionally. And this is what they're going to do with the New World Order. Because it's just a system under another guise. Everyone will still be under alphabets. So to wind back to the comment, the Bible is of alphabets. The Bible is not of reality. There is no direct sensory experience that has created an undefined man. The Bible is defined, telling you it's occults, it's a lie, because it's defined. Because who you truly are is undefined. So every single alphabet thought in your head is misleading you. And if you think that what's in your head, all those alphabets, all those fake definitions that forms the radar of the name of the man you believe you are, is going to lead you to freedom and consciousness and afterlife, you've been deceived. Because all the while you think you're new, born and saved, you are lost. You're a fucking slave. And you need everyone else to be a slave for you to run the scam of being a newborn Christian. And that's no different to what I say in the video we've mentioned with the food forest gardens we created. I'm still compromised by this. Just to have one screw, I need 10,000 slaves or more. Because you need men to rip the mountain open. You need men to turn that metal and steel into transport and trucks with street lights and blue collars and white collars and all the administration that comes with taxation and every different government department, every company that has office clerks and stuff, and the roads and the highways and all the families that are connected to everyone who's working the project, from the mountain being ripped open to end up in the hardware shop where I go and buy with the one screw. It's fucking tens of thousands of slaves all got at in a fake dream world, and we're destroying reality. We're all consumers of reality here. The truth is not there. In spite of trying to create a food forest garden, I'm still using plastic, still using metal. And what is this plastic and metal but destroyed reality? Trees, insects, creatures that had a purpose with a soul, who created progeny. And you can visit their ancestors and play with their descendants. And we destroy it to create dead things that have no inheritance of ancestry. You can't go to a car to experience the children that the car's created. You can't even visit the man who's a slave, who keeps recreating it because a man's a slave to the car. Driving it, making it, maintaining everything. It's all these definitions ahead that clouds us so much. I'm a lawyer. I'm an accountant. I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer, I'm a Labour left wing, I'm this and I'm that, and I believe in reptilian. Look, whatever is in your head has made you asleep, because the foreground of your true big picture sensory reality has been shut down, pixelated by all this confusion. And because we have to uphold it to live in the system of English, if you do not operate within the confines of English and all the rules and regulations, rituals, procedures, conditions, and contracts, there's a mental asylum nearby for you, and there's going to be a nurse and a doctor with a needle, and they're going to fucking put it in you because they think that you're not normal. And you'll be discriminated and censored against beyond comprehension. This is what the Bible is. The Bible is the system of hell, full of good-hearted men and women who fell from undefined paradise. All full of good men and women with good intentions, all believing they're doing the right thing. But that one screw is no different to the one Bible with their one Savior and their one Messiah. You have to have a whole world of downtrodden men, women, and children ignored, completely forsaken, because they must be kidnapped from the womb, brainwashed through definitions, so they can play out the understanding of English and play out the roles of career, title, status that wouldn't even exist, because it'll all be Martian to a gobbledygook if you didn't have that in your head. Okay, so that's the first thing, just repeating that. The Bible is the system. You have to be in the system and of the system to have the Bible in your head. You cannot go anywhere in nature to learn about the Bible from a bird or from the tree. You can only go to another man who's already been got at and brainwashed to pass it on to you. That's how it works. So if you think the Bible is the living word, you have been lied to. It ain't a living word because there's nothing living there. Just like Alice in Wonderland, nothing is living. It's just little Mary, the living, and everyone else is living, both on stage and in the audience. All the living are there. But the whole thing is played out as a fucking fantasy. And while we're in that fantasy, we will do harm to reality. If you do not sense reality before you, you can alter that man. You can harm that man. You can claim whatever you like from the blimp in your head and persecute an innocent man. Men, women, children. Womb man. Embracing all under man. Capital A, capital M, capital A, capital N. Man, because man is God. It's only inside alphabets that we push each other away from each other, where we use and abuse each other, right? It's only inside alphabets where there's war and chaos. It's only inside alphabets where all the harm is going on. It doesn't happen outside of alphabets. Now, he says, Lando says that about the tribe, that they even experienced tribes that were doing things without being exposed to the system. Well, they actually have. And I'll show you. Because even the tribes, you've got to be smart and use your brain, because don't be deceived by color of the fact they live in forests, that they're the real McCoy. Because the system, before the firmament collapsed and decimated, when all the waters came up through earth and all the waters came down, that collapsed the firmament that held all the celestial bodies. Because it's all water. Every time we breathe out, we create water. And as the Creator held the dream of life and breathed life into the dream of life, that water remains. And when the Creator created another man, that man was unique and original too. The essence of the Creator is in the essence of another man, undefined, because that was the true intention of the creating another man. Man creating man. There's no Medicare there. There was no instruction book or Bible. There were no roads and highways and numbers and hieroglyphics and all that going on. The man raised by man in nature was nature, creating the uniqueness and originality of an undefined man. All the magnificence of the Creator held in the dream of life is no different to the man creating another man. So all the doubt and uncertainty and all that confusion that's been brought by the occultists through the generations is a fucking lie. Blatant lying. You weren't there. You're just relying on what they've told you. Because you go into a library of books and you're diving through the books through history, does that mean it's true? You're relying on men and women who are defining reality to you. That's not your experience. You're just trusting something but believing it to be true, but you were not there. And never will be, because every moment's unique and original. So can you get this? Can you comprehend this, how this deception works? When we breathe out, we encode our intentions, our dreams, our thoughts in the breath. And this breath is the water of life, as what was referred to by Lando Hoth when he said, what did he say? Unless they are born of water and the Spirit. And he says, very truly I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God. Now remember, kingdom, king is a man elevated to another man, regardless of responsibility. I'm telling you, it's the system. This is occultists acting as Jesus in the scripts of storytelling of a kingdom. Because in nature, there's no kingdom. To have a kingdom means you already got men and women who have fallen to be under another man. All men are supposed to be equal. No man is master of another man. It's only through the definitions of inside alphabets where this shit happens. It doesn't happen outside of it. because every man is unique and original, as explained. And when we are brought up by nature, we don't own anything. There's nothing to claim. We already are. We already got it all. And we wouldn't sit there and bicker and fight over reality. And we wouldn't, being conscious, we wouldn't deny another man's space for freedom. And we wouldn't argue over exclusivity and privileges and want to build houses in the right views and lookouts and over beaches and access. We wouldn't have all this materialism, consumerism going on that altogether forms the class systems with its economies that discriminates through immense censorship. Because most people are shit with mathematics. They can't, most young people would have been discriminated before they even arrived in the womb. They're never going to be good at mathematics. Only very few are. So you can't succeed in business if you're not very good with mathematics, because it's all commerce and the economy. And then there are those of us, and there's many of us, who don't like taking advantage of other people. So they're discriminated too, because it's only the occultists and their lackeys they appoint that are willing to use and abuse others. And will use mathematics and the laws that come out of mathematics through English and other alphabets that will censor, discriminate another man and weaken another man through land tax and all the taxes and all this crap that comes up, because it's all power structures within the taxation system and within the fiction of money that's made out of nowhere. It's all Alice in Wonderland stuff. So you've already been discriminated against. Most people are never going to be good at mathematics and they hate it. So 90% of the population are always going to be in a lower class already, while the few who've made the game up and play it will set themselves up in a kingdom. And you can call them pharaohs and emperors or dictators that invade other tribes and brainwash them into a new form of society that they must be educated into. And we end up with prime ministers and presidents and senators and, executives of corporations, and we make everything privatized, as we are doing today. You still have everyone, most people, discriminated against. You've been discriminated before you arrived in the womb. And you'll be discriminated against all your life, but you still got a good heart. And everyone else around's got a good heart, and you'll think, oh, we need this society. How are we going to get on with each other? If we don't, we're going to have chaos and war. We're going to be fighting and bickering. Well, this is all part of the cunningness of the occultists who set this up. And this is where the Bible comes into it. You see, because when children are brought up by nature, and no one's inside their head, their magnificence shines because no one's undefined them. Sorry, no one's defined them. But when you define a child and you tell them it's a daffodil and it's yellow, and you put definitions in there by teaching them English and sending them to school, you're actually telling them you're no longer magnificent. You can no longer work things out your unique original way through your senses. What you see will not be enough for you. What you smell will not be enough for you. Your good heart will never be able to deliver the truth to you, in spite of whatever it is you are experiencing through your senses. You must now be fallen. You must have a broken will. You must not create your dreams where your will is unbroken. Because if you create a unique original dreams, you don't have a broken will. But when you've had someone else defining a reality to you as daffodil is yellow, and you accept that, you're saying, I have a broken will. I've accepted that explanation that's defining what I'm experiencing through my senses. But you never created the dream of that. So there's no soul there. So everyone raised by definitions has a broken will. Meaning, they must always have doubt and uncertainty with everything they are experiencing through their senses. Because the definitions rule as their kingdom. It rules as their God. It's the definitions that will tell them what it is and how it is and who you are and what you're part of and where you came from and where you're heading and what life's all about, and on it goes. And that's all you got in your head, just definitions. And there you are on stage as an actor amongst many actors in the pedestrian highways of heavy traffic cities. Traffic jams with cars all coming out of suburbs that are all prisons. All consumers destroying reality, because everything coming out of the system of society is coming out of nature that must be destroyed, which must mean that man had to be first destroyed to be able to be supporting the systems of machinery to destroy the mountains and destroy rivers of reality. And then we complain and wonder about all this crap about global warming and overpopulation, all the other stuff, but you don't see the byproducts, how this discrimination, censorship work, and how this mind control, brain control works on you, works on everybody. Because they've got to break you down, then manipulate to accept and accept and accept the changes that you must set into motion, because they put the pictures in your head and you must follow those pictures because you never dreamt them. Your good heart tells you we must do something better. We must live in better conditions, what we've got now. We've got to change everything. But that's always been with you. You already had it. Religion never gave you a good heart. You already had it. The religion never taught you love. You already had that. Nothing in the system, anything that's defined, has given you already what you had built in before you even arrived, even while you're alive. You've been deceived by default and proxy under the assumption that you need the religion for you to be the man and swear and put your hand before the judge, another man who acts as a judge and authority over you in a court. You fucking do that, you're committing the original sin. And that's the other thing about, before I go and continue deconstructing, because I'm trying to just give you big pictures here. We'll zoom into some of this stuff. When we breathe out, we create water, and the essence of our life is in our breath, and it remains in the water of breath with every other man's water of breath forevermore, unless we corrupt and destroy it, pixelate it through all the means of alchemy that we use through HARP and chemtrails and the pollution, and all the other things that we do and it includes emotion, all the destructive emotions that are not natural to us, because we've been taught these emotions. So this tribe that, apologies, that Lando refers to, were affected by the water of man's breath. Because when the firmament came down prior, and the original first attempt at the system, which was attempted, and the remains of this civilization, this first attempt at a one world order, one world government, is under the oceans, all under the Pacific Ocean, under the Atlantic Oceans. It's on all the lands. You'll see the remains everywhere. Even if occultists spend hundreds of years to remove the evidence on lands like this land now called Australia, their lucky country, their promised land. They've been coming here since the 10th, 11th hundreds, dismantling obelisks and pyramids and destroying it, whatever they could destroy and remove and cover an altar, to make it look like that this is not the original land of Egypt, because this Australia was the original land of Egypt. Egypt means the system. It all started here on this land, we now call Australia. The Commonwealth of Australia, the corporation. When you walk past a house and you can sense this unhappiness and something wrong, it's the water of man's breath that you are sensing with. When you come across another tribe who has fallen and they're inculcating their children, you're sensing, again, through the water breath, the lie. Because so many tribes were at the effect of the first attempt at the New World Order, when everything collapsed, all the remains of all the ancient civilizations all went down at the same time. When you're looking at ancient Rome and ancient Greece and Peru and Incas and the Aztecs and Mayans and all the stuff that's now claimed as Mu underneath the Pacific Ocean, and what they're now claiming is Atlantis under the Atlantic Ocean, and all the remains around the coastal lines under the waters around India and inside the Mediterranean and above, above Asia Minor and around Europe and all that. And you look at Persia and Assyria and you name it, Egypt and all the rest of them, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, they all went at the same time. These are all satellites of the system of ancient Greece, because ancient Greece was the birth of the Western world, was the power of these occults, this Judeo-Judaic world that we are in today, this Aryan bloodline, like the Mountbatten family in the House of Windsor, and its Germanic roots that go back to ancient Greece via Charlemagne, because they do all come back through via Charlemagne, I think it was Charles III, right back to Alexander the Great. And if you go to the Period Genealogical Society, look carefully, you'll see that Diana Spencer's second cousin of George Bush Jr. and Bill Clinton, and you'll find that 97% and maybe nearly all the presidents of the United States all come from this bloodline. And all the houses of Europa, all the royal houses of Europa, all come from the same bloodline. They all marry within each other. And you'll see all this, how all this works. And that the Norman conquest was this Aryan bloodline that came on the lands we now call Great Britain. And they, from that 1000, 1100s, they then with their ships, because the Firmans had come down and filled up all the lowlands, because we used to all live on the lowlands, all our ancestors. The Pacific Ocean never used to be there. Neither was the Atlantic or the Mediterranean and all the other oceans and seas that we see. And they had to re-navigate everything because we used to walk. And we would cross rivers that would be like the Amazon and the Mississippi, and we would find all kinds of reefs and streams, like we have arteries and veins in our blood, in our body. And all the lands of earth were accessible for every man to journey and experience man's dreaming, undefined dreams. And it's always through the water of breath, because all creation is of the water of the breath, and that water bears the spirit that is talked about, where if you're not born again, the water and the spirit. The water is the power of creation, and the spirit is the intention of man encoded in the breath. Just as the Creator dreamt for the dream of life with its intention, and there was man before us in paradise, who then created man, who then created man, who then created man, who all doing the same thing, but undefined. The spirit is just the intentions to our experience, because we're the only ones here. And that water fills the whole of the dream of life, just as the Creator breathed its life into the dream of life and filled the domain of the space of love, of this, what we call creation. Its presence was everywhere. There was nowhere where the Creator wasn't, in holding the big picture, the dream of life that the Creator's holding, which is really a focused brain, a whole body of consciousness, holding it in focus and creating it, which is what we're all gifted with. We all can do this. Our ancestors pre the fall could dream for a bird and watch it fly. When you're looking at the mountains, you're looking at your ancestors' creations here. Everything is to man's creation. That's who we are. And we're fully responsible for this. We don't own it. We're just now lost in creating dead things out of the living dreams that our ancestors created pre the fall. And this attempt to form monotheism, centralization, communism, which is really what all the civilization is all about. Bring everybody under one language, bring everyone under one ruler, bring everyone into one education, under one army, one power, one authority, one law, which is what Zionism and the new Temple of Zion built on the Mount Zion. That new law center is this, with Parliament House here in Canberra, with 4 pyramids on top of each other, the new Parliament House, as the center of the New World Order. It'll be the administrative capital of the New World Order. No doubt about it. If we let these idiots get away because we're too stupid to do anything about changing this thing. And that's why we have at Preston, near Liverpool, on the outskirts of Sydney, we have maybe the only earth-based pyramid that's been capped with a gold, it's not gold, but it looks like a brown to gold thing. And it's this M5, M7 interchange at Preston, Liverpool, telling you that this is the gateway to their promised land, the lucky country, and that Sydney will be the commercial centre, become the main commercial centre of the world eventually, and Canberra being the head office. And you'll find that other places around the world will all lock in. And that's why so many of these high-level occultists, these aristocratic families are moving here into these regions where we are. And we have been guided into the heart of the waspness of this fucking nightmare to undo all this, to get rid of this mess. I don't want you to believe anything I'm telling you. Just use senses and use scrutiny, and you work it out in your unique original way. But all the tribes of man are at the effect of man's breath, because in the breath is the life of the man who breathed it. And if that man was corrupted, if that man had intentions to control another man breathing the air of life, the water of life, can take on the dreaming of that man and contemplate on it and become in the image of that man who dreamt it. Because when you breathe out, it's undefined. That your presence is throughout the whole of the dream of life already, because you are God. But you're so asleep, so fallen, that you can't sense that anymore. And the occultists want to keep you that way, because they need God to create their world for them. They need God to create everything that they want, because it's only God manipulating God to create outcomes that suit only certain those of God, and the exclusivity and privileges that they've set themselves up as Israelites and the chosen ones and all this crap. It's all rubbish, guys. It's all lies. It's just a man playing with another man. So the water, to be born again, reborn, right, is awakening to your senses, is to see the constructs and concepts of the definitions that are manipulating you. Because the only reason why these constructs and concepts are in your head, because that is the instruction program, because the English is the tongue of the robot. The English language and all the alphabet tongues and everything that comes with it are the directives that make you perform. Move left, right, act, do whatever you got to do. Under the name that comes with the titles and creeds that you claim that you are. It's what makes you wake up to the clock, though the clock doesn't exist and there's no such thing as time. There is no such thing as hours and seconds and weeks and days and months and years. There's no such thing as the past or the future. There's no astrology, no numerology. None of this exists. There's no astrotheology. All these are just definitions in your fucking head, put in there by someone else. And you're giving it life energy and raising it up like on stage with Alice in Wonderland. And you can have thousands running around astrotheology. It's just real. And look, it's happening. Everything we said, we prophesied is happening. We are the only ones to the experience, guys. Because it's very simple. Put a child on your lap and say, listen, son, this is the Old Testament, written by such and such and such and such. And you read the stories, the Old Testament to your child, and you say to your son, we are now in 58 BC. It's just made up. But the child doesn't know that. It's innocent. We're in 58 BC. And the dad says, look, there's the calendar, 58 BC. With the moons and the charts. And the effect of this inculcation leads the child to grow up, who then does it to its son, to the grandson of the liar, to continue the lie. And because they're breathing out the water of these dreamings with their good heart, with everyone else is doing it, set to the clock of the calendar, eventually you'll produce a generation that will create the outcome of the end times, planned from 1,000 years prior by the occultists who implanted the seeds of this lie in every man too stupid to realize what was done to them. We're the only one to the experience. Everything that's happening is man-made. There is no such thing as prophecies. It's self-fulfilling, man-fulfilling, man to the experience. Step back and look at the blueprint of the alphabet spinning in your head is where the prophecy is derived from and the outcome experienced of that prophecy. Without the alphabets in your head, there would be no prophecy. Because you need another man to be inculcated and be under the footprints of that alphabet to carry out those roles. And that's why the deception of all the occults, of all the religions, where everyone with a good heart is caught in the miraculous healings and they give it over to Jesus and all that, but they're all being manipulated by these Pied Pipers who lead these flocks because they're in the system of their control over their lives and their children. And they're just breeders. What's the difference between a chook's pen? These really large chook pens, you walk down with heaps of chooks on the ground eating and foraging, and then the rest are in cages, and out pops eggs, and there's a production line. This is what you call suburbs and cities with apartment blocks, with streets and highways. There's no difference. It's the same shit. You're not there because the programming in your head is not you. You never created it. Do you comprehend that? If you want to create a robot, you have an intention for it to deliver the outcomes you hold for this robot. There's a motive for creating it, to deliver to you what you want from it. So you manufacture the robot. But then you've got to put the program in the robot and turn it on. So it will produce what you planned for it. And that's what they do. They kidnap our children in the womb because they define the mothers in the womb. Already what a woman is, they've been defined. Producing children to go to school to be brainwashed. With everyone's good hearts going, oh, look at our children, how wonderful we are. And they are the robots carrying out the inculcation, because the only thing they've got is the lie of the blimps inside their head, housed under the name, in this case, Arthur Cristian, brought up as Greek. Arthur this, Arthur that. And Arthur has this life. And Arthur has to get up and do this. Arthur's got to do it because mum said so, dad said so. And because mum and dad were told by others and said so, because they've got laws to abide to, because they're grown-up adults. And if they don't, they'll have the police on them and have government departments on them, and all this other shit comes into it. Right? So you have all this shit going down as well. So then you've got this robot running around, acting out the inculcation of these definitions. Now, I'm not going to repeat this whole history of the definitions because there's no point. I've already covered all that, and it's going for the videos, and when this video gets re-uploaded, you can watch this one too. So when he says, very truly I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God unless they are born of water and the Spirit, they're saying you have to be defined, you have to be brainwashed, because the intention of the man that holds the dream is the man who breathed its life, its spirit, into the water of man's breath to define you. So this is a cultist saying for you to enter into the system that will be the new world order, just another robotic world. Everyone with good hearts trapped in it, believing they're all doing the right thing, is how you've been misled. The very power creation of water that bears the intention of the creator in everything is the very thing used by the occultists to deceive you with too. They are so close to the truth that most can't route it out because they've been blinded from so young. You know, and this is also due to trauma and invasion and all the other tactics used to humiliate and discriminate and all the other horrific things done to man to make them think that they're powerless and don't have anything. But when you know who you are, no one can steal the essence of who you really are because it's undefined. It's true when he says, you should not be surprised at my saying you must be born again. The wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. Everyone is unique and original, not one the same as the next. And the dreaming of life is so undefined that everything happening is so magnificent. So when we're truly born again, we're reborn into the undefined dream of life with no definition in your head that forms the fake blimp on your radar that you're projecting and illuminating around you to define the fake perception of reality you believe is true. The robot, the slave in the system, the biblical slave, the slave to the Quran, the slave to science, the slave to any form of the occults of the system. The real truth is, pre the fall, a man can journey to experience the dream creations of another man. The man can smell another man, doesn't need to call out the name because the smell already is the name of the man. Without, it's undefined. And it was the way it was. And this is the way it's got to be returned, undefined. So that's how I'm breaking this down. When he says very truly, this is a cultist, remember, this is a cultist writing to the brainwashed to deceive you. Very truly, I tell you, no one can enter the kingdom of God. You can't enter the system unless you're brainwashed by the intentions of what we're going to give you and manipulating your good heart so you're in the system. Because when you peel back the church, it's the system. When you peel back Christianity, it's the system. When you peel back everyone in the system, it is just the system of this inculcation that forms the robotic lives of all these deeper slid drones who have the inculcation spinning in their head. Because they're recalling, like, you know, we're calling out a dog, calling out, Rover, come here. They're calling out the definition, yellow daffodil, Alice in Wonderland, yellow, blue, black, pink, green, left, right, up, down, tall, strong, call out, call out, call out. And this is how you form this fake dream world. And you're running around, asleep. And you bring your kids into it too. Flesh gives birth to flesh, but the spirit gives birth to spirit. True. But the spirit is the intention of a man's dream that you've been impregnated with. If you're not conscious, meaning if you can't sense another man's intention, then your head will be spinning with the definitions coming out of another man's mouth who speaks English or any other fake tongue of alphabets. And you'll be misled to believing what the man is saying is the truth. But the man who knows the truth of this can mislead you and use you and abuse you, which they do in the law with their Orwellian doublespeak and triplespeak. It's just one of thousands of these kind of examples. This is why you can go to a shop and buy a lolly that has poison in it, and you think, oh, this won't hurt my child. One tiny little bit won't matter. And the son's like, can I also have this tomorrow and that one, and that ice cream? Oh, yeah, wait a minute, it's just one little bit, this one little bit of that. Gradually. If you can't sense the lie to rat it out, you'll accept it into your life and become it. And that poison is the destruction, the apocalypse of who you are. And in your relationship with everything of the dream of life gifted to you by the Creator as man, because God is man. We're the only ones here. And this is why it says, the wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. Listen to the cunning. If you're blind, if you're not able to make sense of these things, you'll get sucked in. And he says, you said we've got to live in a world with no lies, but the only way to live in a world of no lies is through the source that has 100% truth. And that is Jesus, who leads us to the Father. Fuck me dead. Bless his heart. He's got good intentions, as they all do, who believe this stuff. But it is a man speaking to another man. And whatever man existed of long ago was a man. And any man who came from the truth was undefined and would never define another man. Because to define another man is to desecrate the sacredness of a man's soul. And to define a man means to destroy, is the intention to destroy the soul of another man, intentionally. Because we can't create the soul for another man. We can create the vessel, but the vessel, the life, the child, must create its soul. And without it, there's nothing there. Even though in our heads we're spinning, oh, isn't our son beautiful? And grows up and plays football and sport and does all these things with everyone. And plays with money and the economy and gets lost in all the system things. But every single thought in its head is coming out of the definition of the blimp on their radar. It's not coming from the essence of the man's dream that the man is holding as the creator of its life. It's coming from the fucking blimp in the head that was a dream created by another man, added to by another man, with all their characters and all their motives and intentions. And it's played out inside your head. Like I said, when you're watching the stage performance in Alice in Wonderland, it's only going on inside your head. You're fantasizing that it's true, but what's going on around you? Like when you look at the night skies, you say, oh, that's Pluto and that's Mars and that's Venus. You're looking at the real thing, but all the definitions are misleading you because you never got them directly from the life form now called Pluto. You just practiced performing the lie. So the source that's 100% is the man raised as a child by nature with everything undefined, because the senses of the child will never lie to the child, because the dream that the child creates through its senses is unique and original to the child. And there's the soul, because the senses are the dreams, are thoughts that the child is holding as the dream of its life. And if we create children like that, holding the dream of life, it's uncorrupted. It's not desecrated. So the only source is man, who refuses to corrupt man. So when we allow our children to be brought up by nature again, where there's no doubt and uncertainty or confusion, where there's no blimps in the head coming from our history of the Dark Ages and that we were cannibals and all this other crap of Darwinism and all the other bullshit that was put in your head to mislead you and to think that we were creepy crawly things or something that was less than a man that's evolving, and this is the progress of civilization, and this is as good as going to get. It's going to get a little bit better. When we fucking came from the light into the darkness, and this is as bad as it's going to get, and it's going to get worse because of an apocalypse we're all creating, because we're distorting reality. That's all you can do when you lie. You're corrupting reality and executioning reality, because the robot must destroy to be the consumer and the materialist. You must have destroyed trees and all that. But you can't go to any tree to get its permission to say, yes, I want you to chop me down and turn me into this. Or a mountain ripped down to tell you, yes, I want you to turn me into plastic and steel. You just got the bullshit in your head that's been brainwashed in you that's telling you that. But reality is not on your radar. Only the lie is. The fakeness is there. The blimp, the definition. we're all creating water. Our consciousness is in the breath because our intention is encoded in the breath of every breath we breathe out. We can sense anyone, anywhere using our senses. You can't rely on the blip to do it. So when you go before a life form, if you can shut down the ghetto blast of all this crap in your head and just sense the life form will tell you everything about its purpose. And each unique original life form, even though they all come from the supposed same species, well, each one will tell you a story of its life, unique and original to each one. And it comes through your senses, not from the nonsense of imagining what you're seeing before you, which is what the roots of the occult is all about. When you're imagining something to be true, you're lying and you're committing fraud. When we make claims that we own this land, that is this and that is that, and that is this and that is that, and on it goes into a library full of books that is defining everything. None of it is true. So the first thing to remember and prove that I'm lying, that the Bible is a fraud. It's fake. That there is no God there. There is no Jesus there. There's nothing living there. You just got representatives, storytellers, actors, performing scripts to deceive good-hearted men and women, to play the symphony of hell in the everyday lives of the system. And this all plays out by women, because I've come to see that it's the womb man who's been defined as a womb man who'll corrupt the child in the womb, who becomes the boy and the girl defined. So we are already assimilated into definitions in the womb because the woman's already been told what a woman is and how to feel as a woman, how to look as a woman, how to act as a woman. And the definitions are libraries full of what it is to be a woman. And it's in that the corruption, the abomination begins. And when the child arrives as this thing called birth, and all it's getting is constant definitions, and maybe the name's already been created for this child, housing the world of definitions of its book of life in the system, because it's a record in the system, a journey of an entry, and a mathematical economic entry, an accounting record of commerce and all that. But they all come out of the measurements of the compass and the square, because the idea of first, last, rich, poor, weight, levels, measurements, dimensions, planes, all comes out of definitions. None of this exists. All the values that come out of measurements, which is the whole of the system, is a lie. But it's these measurements that forms race, culture, creed, title, standings. It's measurements that define values and class systems, and that determine rules and regulations and what's right and what's wrong. But all this is the definitions of fantasy inside your head, playing out, calling out. But it ain't no man there. Who you are is not there. It's just other men who've stolen your body, your vessel, to occupy you with their dreams. And they want you focused on their dreams, so it's resonating as your fake consciousness. And you walk around unconscious, not realizing your will's been broken because you're driven by another man who's dominating your will. And you're carrying it out. All right? So what I'm getting at is that there is no generations of Jesus, as some Rodneys say, my name is Queen Elphinstone, and I'm the seventh son, the new Jesus, I am the one, all this stuff. What a load of bullshit. You're man. We're all ancestors of man. We all come from the same tribe, regardless of all the abominations that all came along. You're claiming some form of exclusivity and privilege to give you some kind of influence over this ego you walk around with, and which has come out of the Egregore, which is what I'm going to get into now. It's the final part of this. So to live in a world of lies is to make sense of everything. And you've got to be able to use your brain, because I cannot lead you to it. The truth is undefined. I cannot tell you what freedom is for you, what truth is for you, what your real life is. I can only reveal to you what the lie is and how it works. And then if you get it, you drop it all and you start using your senses to make sense of your living soul that you create and expand, because it is the dreams, the thoughts you hold of your true life, undefined. And it's there that the man will never harm another man, because there is no self there. There's no self-interest. There's nothing, what's in it for me? Because the man is the whole of the dream of life. And if we're the whole of the dream of life, we're not shattered, not fallen down to these constructs of what become a human, and all this crap, we wouldn't run around claiming ownership over anything. There'd be no race, culture, creed, titles, standings, nothing. It's just we will come across man expressing the true uniqueness, originality of a man, that magnificence, undefined. We're so blinded by cults and so many representatives of cults. The only other thing to point out here is that the system is made up out of alphabets. Alphabets are derivatives of measurements that came out of the compass and square. They are definitions forming sounds that become the phonetics and the etymology and the calling out that we now call English or Hebrew or Latin or Greek. And they are just the robotic tongue of the slave, lost to a defined world that they perceive as their reality and who they are. All of it fake, because it was predetermined by others. Hence the registration of the birth certificate and the life of that vessel that we represent in the system. So this dream breathed by a man is the Egregore. This man, this liar, no different to any of us, dreamt a lie so huge and needed to fill it with a world of communication and language, definitions, which came out of measurements. And it needs man to breathe it, to give it life, to set it into motion, to accept it. The daffodil is yellow, and accept the definition. And the innocent child sets that definition into motion. That definition is part of the Egregore, this beast of the apocalypse. Because this man imagined a beast that would embody the whole of the dream of life to corrupt all of man into committing spiritual suicide to all of man. It's basically a mirror image of creation, of the life of the living creator of man, a carbon copy. But it is a beast, and it was born out of human sacrifice, of rituals, of abominations that brought forth bloodletting and blood libel, and all the horrors of every child and man crucified, where they were taken to death and then brought back to life, taken to death and brought back to life until they finally killed them. They break their will. All the trauma from hopelessness, emptiness, despair, sadness, greed, selfishness, power, control, you name it. Because the intentions of those who performed the rituals already have the power and control and all that attitude of domination going on in the dream they're holding during the sacrifice of the victims that they're sacrificing. And the victim is also bringing forth all the hopelessness and weakness and powerlessness when you realize you can't get away from the whole of these people. They're going to kill you, that it's all over. Every single emotion of the victim and of the perpetrators is captured in the breath of the song that formed English and Hebrew and all the alphabet tongues. So when we call out these images through the blimps in the head that were put in there, these pictures, we're summoning forth, calling out the priests who performed these rituals and the victims who were crucified. And it's played out in your everyday life in the system of this duality of rich and poor, first and last, weak and strong. And it's played out in the law. And it's so close to the truth because the essence of the life of the man is in the breath that you are experiencing during the time you're calling out English. Because we've never been separated from any man. There's never been a separation and never will be. So the abomination of the apocalypse, this beast, it really is a beast created by all of us who feed it. And it's called the Egregore. It's a demonic entity. But the Egregore is made up of the ego, the E-go of every man who was given birth from this Egregore, from this dream, because the priests behind this of the occults who placed this inculcation into the woman's womb to inculcate a woman who gives birth to an inculcated child, right? That intention is there already. And we live to feed the beast that's dead. But this beast of the apocalypse is a group effort of all of us to commit suicide to reality by being full-time consumers and materialists and purveyors of the inculcation in our heads. We worship the definition. We're so blind to reality, we can't sense it. We can't sense the uniqueness, originality of everything of reality. We're only projecting the illumination of the definitions that has defined that fake perception of reality that we believe we are, that we carry out as our rituals, as Arthur, Greek, 5'8", he's businessman, this and he's that, and it's his status, and he makes this money, and these are his titles and his driver's license, and all the armory of this crap. It comes from the Egregore. And the name we hold that houses the Egregore is our E-go. Because the E-go is the intention of the priest to compel you to perform what they want from you. Your will was broken because you were defined. And the E is ecclesiastical, the intention of the priests of the occults to rule you, to dominate your broken will for your whole of your life, to do what they want you to do, to be who they want you to be, and never let you wake up from this. E-go. Setting into motion the lie. E-motion, setting into motion the lie of the definition of the blimp that was seeped into our heads. That's Adam, Eve, apple, snake. The snake is a man, a priest, an occultist, putting a seed, an imprint, a definition into Eve's head. And she's looking at the picture in her head and liking it as she's focusing on it and saying, oh, the daffodil's yellow. And the seduction coerces her to turn around to Adam and say, Adam, look, that's a daffodil and that's yellow. Just keeping it simple. But this is how we fell from paradise, from undefined to defined. And Eve thought she was doing the right thing. And she believed she was doing the right thing with Adam. But Adam's a man, Eve's a man, the snake's a man, and the forbidden tree, or the forbidden fruit, which came along later in the craft of their myths and all this satanic shit, is explanation, instruction, education, suggestion, definitions, instructions, and all that sort of stuff. The inculcation, the brainwashing, indoctrination, to put the seed of the serpent's lie in your head and get you to focus on it and illuminate it, and then give you another one, and then another one, and then another one. And for your whole life, you keep adding and illuminating. That forms the book of life, of your fake life, in the system of the beast of the apocalypse, destroying everything of reality, because reality is not on your radar. Only what you worship, the blimps in your head, that has defined your cult, your race, culture, creed, title, standings, etc. The Egregore is a man-made demonic beast, a thought form, an image designed to consume all of man and destroy all of man by man's willingness to destroy man itself. And by each of us participating under the influence of the Egregore, we have formed the ego of that fake persona where it's housing the blimp of the name Arthur Cristian with all the definitions that's formed this fake robotic life. And everything this man does, if this man was lost, would serve the egregore of this demonic beast. And this is where you'll see all the rituals that these occultists worship, because it is a man-made phenomena. It is a phenomenon, because it doesn't exist. We are imagining that these things exist, and we give it our life energy. But the outcome of all of this is a true apocalypse of our own doing if we participate. While we allow the alphabets to rule our heads, we're destroying who we are, what we're part of, and destroying everything else. And we have to help the womb man to stop doing this. We as womb man, got to help womb man to stop defining in the womb. And from there, stop defining life for every child. So it's sacred. No desecration, undefined. To get past all the doubt and the uncertainty of all that confusion. Telling us, oh, but we need English to communicate. How are we going to live? Man, I'm telling you, the brainwashing is so deep, you'll never be able to make sense of this, to realize how magnificent we really are. The egregore is the basis of all self-obsession. The egregore and the ego that we're housed, because going back to the original dream of life, there's the creator holding the dream of life and coming into the dream of life, breathing its life into the life to set it all into motion. And there's the creator as man, holding the whole of the dream of life, and its character and all its qualities is in everything. Its whole essence, a complete in its likeness, undefined. And then that creator, the man, creates another man and does it too, because it's been undefined. And the qualities of that character, of that man, breathing the dream of life. This is the unfolding of creation as we see before us, of the mountains and the birds, because we're creating everything and adding to it with our breath, with our power creation. Until some fucking idiot came along and started to come up with this lie and try to deceive others into falling into the definitions and make us fall away from our power of creation of life itself, like dreaming a bird and watching it fly, to go into what flies and kill it, and the trees in the forest that are alive and kill it, and rip open the ground, we call these mountains and whatever, and make dead things that can never create progeny, that have no soul, that need us as slaves to do everything for it, while it exists in our heads. And when you multiply man creating man, creating man, creating man, who breathed the dream of the egregore, of this fucking lie, you're seeing annihilation before your eyes. And this includes all the occultists who've been painted with the same brush of this lie. Wouldn't matter who you are in the occults, you've been got at. And it wouldn't matter who you are when you swing on in the lie of this duality to the other side of the everyday commoners and serfs and all that. The renters, it's been done to everybody. And all of us together are celebrating the symphony of this satanic song of death for all of us. Unless we wake up and remember who we really are in this life, undefined. So I'll post up, when this video gets redone and put up on YouTube, I'll copy paste all the text of these comments. There never was a Jesus in that way, because a man of the truth would never define another man. Any man who's woken up would sense the corruption to another man by defining the truth to another man. So you know where it's coming from, whether it's a lie or whether it's the truth, just by observing the definitions and how you exploit it, using your scrutiny, working it out. The only other thing, I'm just going to flick to a comment that another guy had posted, Gary posted it today, earlier today, in the same video. He says, the motto of the New World Order, own nothing, control everything. This is how they avoid liability for anything. I wrote back to Gary and I said, since ancient Egypt, because Egypt means the system, the high-level occultists were Freemasons and Satanists. It's Freemasonry is just a practice of the occult. It doesn't matter whether you're a Knights Templar, whether you're of the Knights of Malta. It doesn't matter whether it's Bilderberger or whatever. It's all under the egregore of measurements that define the vessel of the lie of that society and that action. But they're all together under the one abomination controlled by a very tiny few, right? So since ancient Egypt, the high-level occultists, out of which sprang forth their make-believe world of priesthoods, aristocracy, societies, secret or not, authorities, administrators, representatives, that formed the backbone of the system, right? They have never owned anything, and it's then conned everyone into claiming ownership over whatever, so that by default and by proxy and through trusts and foundations, they can act as the authorities and administrators over all the claims of ownership while having constant access to all the spoils of accumulated wealth they are caring for. You see, because the system with all its alphabet definitions forming the fantasies of perceived realities was set up in such a way so that the curse of all lies, because all lies are curses and all liars are processing curses, is processed only by the liars and not by the occultists and all their bloodline families and beneficiaries, maintaining the most important aspects of the backbone of the system. So they believe. They're all wrong themselves. By claiming ownership over a name, which is what you do with a birth certificate, and everything comes to the name, because as the egregore is a definition, because claiming the name is a definition. The claim is claiming ownership over a birth certificate, over mortgages, leases, bank accounts, credit cards, loans, utility contracts, driver's license, car registrations, tax file numbers, passports, Medicare, government handouts, etc. Are committing fraud when they claim it, and are lying, and are processing all the curses. To claim ownership over whatever requires the system to protect and administrate over all the claims that you claim that you own. This is how it works, this cunningness of the Bible. Claim God and you'll need the administrators of God to represent you and protect you. Hence, Roman Catholicism, Church of England, Greek Orthodoxy. It's a scam. So, the system, back here to the video so I can see again. The system is to get you to hold the definition in the foreground of your dreaming. So it's the dominant dream of your life. But as it is not your dream, but it's dreamed by another man, and as this dream houses all the dreams that defines the system of your fake life that you perceive as you, you are the vessel of the beast of the apocalypse. And you are dead. And there's nothing living there. Live in. Holding dreams, live in. The living creator lives in the dream that the creator holds as man. And when we create dreams that are unique to us, undefined, we live in the dreams that we hold. And the more we hold it, and the more we expand it, intensify it, the more creation of life itself is to us and of us. We're in it and of it. But when we do it in the definitions, and we're in the definition and of the definition, we're both in Caesar's world and of Caesar's world, we're fucking gone, man. And if you think that the law's going to lead you, go and argue in their courts and go and argue in their system and go and argue for their alphabets and all the definition is going to lead you out of this, it will not. It'll only keep you trapped. Because everything of the abomination only keeps you trapped in it. In spite of your good heart, you think that you're going to get out of it. That's why all the ancestors that were in paradise who then fell produced all the progeny of all the descendants who've never returned. And here we are, these generations still living today, all with good hearts, all the good hearts from the ancestors and all our ancestors, all our good hearts. We're still trapped, being used and abused because we can't step aside and see the bigger picture, which is what I shared in the early part of this video and the other two videos, which is mentioned in the About section of this Facebook live broadcast and when it goes to YouTube on the YouTube channel in the About section of that video. So in a nutshell, to wind this up, the alphabets and any definition in your head is an alphabet. If you rely on that definition, you default to it by proxy, thinking that the explanation of a consciousness or the explanation of a freedom or the explanation of the sentiments you're hearing coming from others who are in the world of alphabets, talking to you through alphabets, if you're not smart enough and work it out, you remain trapped in the world of alphabets. You'll never get out. Because it's only inside the world of alphabets where man is breathing the lie and processing the curse of our own destruction to each other. But that's what the curse is, destroying reality, killing everything that we are, with nothing to stop it, no resistance against it. While we rely on it, which we do when we claim land, we claim ownership, and we claim anything, in spite of another man going without. It is the ongoing apocalypse of happening in your life, even though you may think you're in paradise right now, living on land. You're living the fucking lie because you can't hold the big picture. You're only in it for what's for me, and your picture's very small, just thinking for yourself. That's self-centeredness, that's individuals. These are individuals, all under the control, because those who do that, they've got contracts with the local council, contracts with services and utilities of the system. They will still have the birth certificate. They'll still be answerable to the occultists through their government infrastructures. Government, govern the mind, govern the man, lost to the definitions, the mind, which doesn't exist. There's no mind. You can't cut up, open man's head and go and find the mind, because it's all imagining. All fantasy is imaginary. All the harm done to man is through imagining, through fantasy, illusion and delusion. We have to step outside of alphabets, because while we remain inside alphabets, all the harm that we're all experiencing is going on there. It's not happening outside. All our true freedom only happens outside. So unless you can make sense through your senses, which has nothing to do with alphabet thoughts in your head, you'll continue to illuminate alphabets with what you're sensing, like the daffodil is yellow. You're seeing it before your eyes. You can smell it. But your head is spinning with the daffodil is yellow, and that daffodil's yellow was made in the bed of the system. And because you have made your bed in the system, because you've accepted that as your truth, all your life is defaulting to the system where you've made your bed. So no matter what you have got spinning in your head that is an alphabet thought, you'll continue all your life energy directed into the beast of the apocalypse to destroy, to fulfill the outcome of this end-time grand plan conceived by this nutter, to deceive everyone on all sides caught up in it. I'm not lying to you about this. This is the truth. But hey, I'm showing you what doesn't work. I'm showing how all this crap works so you can come to see it, make sense yourself of this stuff. But when we wake up, it's not to follow anyone. It's to withdraw. Withdraw. Stop using the system. Stop serving it. But that means you've got to recreate food forests and not relying on the economies that come out of the system too. So we have to rebuild our real lives so we're not dependent on gas, electricity. We're not dependent on roads and highways and byways requiring slaves broken down and garbage and recycled trucks, shopping centers and supermarkets and economies and whatever form of economy you want to make up, because that's all bullshit. Nobody owns anything. We've already got it all. And when we wake up, we are the source of abundance because we don't own it. We spend our lives as creators creating abundance. And nothing turns on to the man. There's no self there to adorn it with. It doesn't, that's gone. We're no longer the worship of this illumination, this Luciferic, Luciferianism operating inside our heads where we illuminate these definitions. The real work is to disentangle from alphabets and all the pictography and its phonetics and etymology, all the things that you have associated with that keeps you defaulting to the system. Unless you can disconnect from all of it, you'll keep bringing the system with you, with your good heart, believing you're doing the right thing to perpetuate this thing, and nothing will ever stop. This chaos, this nightmare will continue. Okay, I think I'll wind it up here. I've done my rant for the day. For those new to all this work, watch part 1, part 2, and rewatch this. Look at the posts the Selfie of Freakenstein, which is very long, and the Satanic Craft of Inculcation and Practice. The Selfie of Freakenstein houses all our major Facebook work going back since mid-24, probably a couple of years ago now, and the Satanic Craft of Inculcation and Practice houses everything since February, March 2014. I've made them into 2 massive blogs. And in the comments sections of those 2, you'll find much more, so much more. It's there for you to contemplate, using real people that we argue with, so you can see the argument played out in your head. So you see if you can disentangle from the stuff that we're sharing with you. It's not here for you to follow us. We don't want anyone to follow us. We're on the wrong track if we get people following us. But we can co-create a paradise together. That means you don't have people ringing up and say, have you got Kingdom up and running yet? And I said, well, come over and get the shovel in your hand and make Kingdom happen. Come on, let's build it together. Not waiting around for us to do it. We fucking all do it together and do it. Because Kingdom is an undefined paradise of tribes of man, undefined, raising children who are undefined, and allow the true freedom of what it is to be a child of man, to roam the dream of life, without some pedophile and some horror waiting around the corner to corrupt them with. In doing the work, the Love for Life work, all of those who are new to this, I keep saying it's like driving a car. Don't drive it too fast, the car being your brain. Because otherwise, everything outside the window will be a blur. And the blur will be all the definitions that you're filtering everything that you're reading of our work or hearing and listening to this man or Fiona. You'll be putting it through all these definitions, meaning who we are is not on your radar. You will be representing, impersonating us and thinking what we're doing and what we're doing, all this stuff. And you're making it all up, and all that will be lies. You have to slow and shut down that ghetto blaster in your fucking head. You've got to stop it. And the only way you do it is to don't wrestle with it. When you notice it, you say, oh, okay, but get back to making sense. Use your senses and sense. Slow everything down. Contemplate, use scrutiny. Because then you can begin to navigate through the nightmare of the apocalypse of the system to work your way out of this in this life with everyone else who are doing it. Which means you've got to get past the fear of death. Because there is no death for those who know who they really are, because they've got a soul. Think of the Roman Colosseum with the Christians thrown into the lions. When you know who you are, there is no death. You still do what you got to do as an undefined man, creating that dream of life. And Kingdom is all about creating the abundance of a dream of life, undefined, where no one owns anything. And we're creating the abundance for everyone. And there's no right time. That's all a lie. So you've got to slow it down. So you're not filtering all the meanings of definitions to place us into where you see us being, because we won't be there. The real man will not be present to you. Only the fantasy that you're imagining, that you're illuminating, will be there for you. The English language is so cunningly, and the guile behind it is so brilliant in its craft work, in this of the occults. So it's in sensing the intentions behind the work we do that you'll get it, not the recalling out of the definitions that are triggered in your head as you hear the language or the mannerisms of this man, and whether he curses words that are true words of expressing how things really are. Hence the F word. When we really are on each other's radars, we will not pull it away from each other anymore. There is no argument, no conflict. There's no taking advantage of. There is no crime, nothing, because we're so conscious. And we hold such a magnificent dream so big, we wouldn't dare to even contemplate that. And when you have brothers awakened like this again, this is the true Christs, mistreated, twisted around, when we can hold the living dream of life, undefined. We are the pillars of paradise for all of our ancestors, all our descendants, and all our ancestors who did it. And we're calling out the Son of Man's magnificence as God. because that's what we are. So we've got to do that in this life if you want to turn around this nightmare that's been set to the time codes of the end times of the Bible. And we're living those times that are self-fulfilling, but all those who believe in those end time stories and what came out of Nostradamus prophecies and all the other prophecies, because all of it comes from the occults. I must stress one other thing, guys, quickly. It just came to me. Channeling, talking to the dead, communicating with those on the other side is all a lie. Because the egregore is where everyone who died to it through the ego, the definitions, if you die as the definition and you've never created a dream, you're lost in the mist and wilderness of fucking nothing. And you're just this definition, an apparition, a demonic thought form that has no soul. And the egregore is enriched by all of the fallen who died like this. And those amongst us today who think they're tapping into the afterlife to talk with the dead are talking with the dead. Because the living have not died, because they are the tree, they are the bird, they are the wind, they are the rain, they are the song of life. They live as life because they are life. They're alive. Their dream, they live in the dream of life they hold. They never died. And it's because it's beyond time and space. There never was a beginning to life, to the dream of life. But the occults and all the channeling that comes with it, and all the communication with all the apparitions that come in your head, and you think you're talking to your grandmother and your grandfather, you've got to use your senses, because your senses will tell you the truth, whether you're talking to the living or not. Because I've experienced the living with me, and they're alive. They're not dead. But it's so easy to get sucked into this world of this egregore, this demonic entity, full of the dead who fell into it, who gave their life to it completely. Spiritual suicide by the millions, probably. Still doing it now, because the cemeteries with all its tombstones is this. All the crematoriums with all the names that were burnt is with this. Everyone dies to it is there, accessed and used by the occultists who call and summon them and bring them into demonic attacks and bring them into your home. I've experienced these attacks in this house, orchestrated by those from afar, but we just remove it. And you can walk into it preset, because the egregore has its own sort of life too. And it reacts to anyone who isn't coming from that. And it will bring up emotion in others to hate you, to make you turn away from you, despise you, mistreat you. Because the egregore's power is still resonating in the veins of these people who are still lost and confused. They think that what they're experiencing through that blimp on the radar that they're projecting, which is the egregore's housing that fuses its power into you. It gets in and runs through the veins of your body, all through your blood as you breathe. This is satanic ritual sacrifice. The amount of people that will turn against you and hate you is staggering. But you've got to know who you are, and you've got to forgive them. You truly got to forgive them. We can't save anybody. This is not a game of saving life and death. This is a choice. We are in the parting of the ways now, of eternal life or eternal death. And you've got to embrace everybody in wholeness. And we walk the talk, the life of abundance. We don't talk about it, we do it in these kingdoms. And we're up for it. If those want to do it with us, or if you want to do it, whatever, we're going to do it out here. We're already doing it. Hundreds of us getting together and doing it, singing this song. Until enough of us create such a voice that we're not a cult, we're not a sect, we're not following anybody. All we live for is do no harm and life's a gift, creating abundance. That's it. That's all we're doing. And that everything we create is for the benefit of everyone else around us. And this includes health and the true healing and all the other things going on. This is how they stop your cultists from using anything to get at you and claim that you're a cult. Well, there's something wrong. We must invade and destroy. And that's why I have a recording studio here. That's why there's so many things I've done, because I'm going to use the system with many others to sing the song of our true intention, to bring the spirit into the water of our breath, using the darkness of the system, like light penetrating the dark caves, to bring light into those lost in these dark caves of Plato's world, and see if they can just get them to look for a moment, notice, and see they might notice the light and turn around and start contemplating on that light, to try and trigger things, break them from the hypnotic spell. It's not going to fall in our laps. We've got to do it. And I'm looking at it as, you can call it a politicized campaign if you want. The kingdom has been politicized, but it isn't political. We're just going to play it out in mainstream. To let everyone know, we're not a cult. We're not a sect. We carry no weapons. We live life as a gift on a do no harm path. We don't own anything. We're just sources of abundance. We're creators of abundance, and we're gifted amongst brothers and sisters who are conscious of this abundance. So we never deprive anyone of anything. That everyone has that inherent right to true life, of freedom, of consciousness, undefined. Break him down from that side of the system. You know, get semi-trailer trucks, put bands on it, have t-shirts, booklets, literature. Let's play that game. Just do what the people come knocking on your door from Jehovah's Witnesses and all that. Do what the Hare Krishnas going out, hurry, hurry. I don't mean in a new age kind of thing, but we do it with the fucking motive. Wake up, brothers and sisters. We are not your enemy. You don't need to live like this. You don't need to suffer in the squalors of suburbs. You don't need to live and house yourself inside prisons of cities with immense suffering everywhere. The sweatshops with 12-year-old kids being used and abused, you know, with tens of thousands of Chinese dying of cancer because they're manufacturing solar panels for free energy where it ain't free. There's nothing free about solar or wind power, which millions of birds and bats are flying, getting killed. The true consciousness of freedom is us. And the more of us who hold that dream of life and this big picture, we change the climate. Because that's what it is. The climate we're experiencing is our dreaming, but it's so corrupted, so distorted. We're all at the effect of each other. We are all God, undefined, meaningful responsibility for everything. No more passing the buck. All the best, everyone. Good to see you all. Apologies, I've not replied to all the comments. I've just been in my divulging of what I wanted to do with this video. All the best. Take care. Bye. You want to build yourself a castle, a better castle than the other ones. You come out, the spades and shovels and the buckets are all lined up ready for you to make your mark in sandpit land. You come out, a modern hero. Stand and watch while Rome is burning, as fantasies of life evaporate. You come out, stop shouting from the rooftop, climbing up the walls of first and best and fastest giant. You're running round the sand.
stop blowing, stop growing, telling tales of struggle, how one fortune skills and outcomes. You're scaling empty mountains, faking footsteps, faking handholds. You big man giant, you're driving truckloads of emotion, compelling you to dance to the sandpit tunes. Rulers bending you to orders, binding you with whispers, teaching you to dream. They're dreaming kindly, putting up the fences, handing out the centaurs. Boy, you know to rule the world with. You're grabbing toys to make a hit. You're trading smiles with avarice. You're thinking that you worked it out. You're blind to those who guide your way. Your rosy glasses hold this way. Your separate thinking pulls you down. All your might and all your armies, with all your 666 hand signals and your second twisted rituals of living giant. And you think you got the answers, but all you got is dead delusion. You're just stuck inside this no return vortex giant. You're the chosen ones of nothing. You're the golden goose of folly. All the power you claim just doesn't exist. Giant, you big man giant. You're towering giant. You big man giant. You're giant.